Hello, this is a presentation about a project that I have been working on about unlocking WebRTC for end-user driven innovation. Now, the basic idea that is described in this research paper is to be able to intercept WebRTC and related APIs and allow the end user to define certain customizations. So the software RTC Helper that I'll go over in this presentation essentially does this, intercepts the API, and in a typical WebRTC scenario, it provides different categories of customization. So you can intercept get user media and customize how it captures the video, or you can intercept, say, the AJAX and WebSocket requests and so on. So this paper describes all the details. The software will be made public soon, but currently is private. And the way we would go over this is I'm going to walk through the getting started part of it and then go over some of the examples that are enabled by this software to allow end user innovation for WebRTC. Now I'm running the software locally here. All the demos will be done locally. Once you check out the code from the GitHub, you'll have the root directory and just run the server which serves the file. So just to make sure that the files are being installed correctly, what I'll do is I'll open these kind of URL here. The test application that is included in the software is very simple. There is one video box which shows the published camera and microphone, and it creates a peer connection inside and then goes over to this one. So you can look at the code also on GitHub about this, but basically that's what it does. And the third one is just a copy of the second one to have more video boxes for various demos that I'll be showing here. To make sure that the installation was correct, the download was correct, just make sure that your capture works. First time it will allow you to have a different camera than the normal one, so that shows up here, but you can definitely change those things. And so now I have made the default camera as my FaceTime camera, and I capture it. Let me get rid of this also from the view. It just captures my stuff. As you can notice that the frame rate is pretty low. It connects the peer connection, and this is just a copy of it. Everything works fine. Now what the software can be triggered is there is a hidden button right at the corner here. If you open that, if you click on that, it will launch the options panel that is described in the help and so on. And the first thing I'm going to do is show you the settings here. There are a lot of categories. All the categories that are described in the research paper are basically tabs here. Each of these categories allow you to customize them. So as an example, I can change the capture from my webcam to do something else. So as an example, this is showing an analog clock, and it will show an analog clock as a webcam capture now. If I connect, the same capture will go to the other peer connection and other videos or boxes. Settings shows a number of other things that are useful. As an example, I typically do inline frame. So by default, this does inline if you do wrapper.html. I also like to do wrap the tabs, so all the tabs are visible at the same time. And there are a bunch of other things that you can play around with. Most of these tabs, you will likely see more information about all these controls. So as an example, when you go to the capture tab, click on more, it describes how the function that you can write that can be injected here. To show you more concrete example, suppose this function currently is showing an analog clock as a webcam capture, and the description here describes what named parameters it can take, optional, most of all of them are optional basically, and you can customize your behavior. So this piece of software, this piece of code, about 90 lines of code, it draws this clock based on the current time. And if you're familiar with JavaScript, obviously you can understand all this stuff. And say for example, I can change the face of it to something like yellow, and if I click on save or press Command S on Mac or Control S on Windows, it will basically update the injected function in real time. Let's say change it to red, change it. Now all these functions that come in different tabs are predefined, but that doesn't mean you cannot define your own function. So you can basically completely overwrite it, write your own functions, and those get saved. So right now I made some modifications. So this is my local copy of it, and when I reload the application, the same function will be there for the next run. Right now I'm showing you the option of option number 2 of installation, which is the intercept is done as part of the web app. The interesting part here is also that this is available as a browser extension, so you can essentially do the intercept on third-party website. To emulate that, there is this test application extension.html that doesn't include the software by itself in the script tag, so it can only be modified via the extension. So what I'm going to show you is how to install the extension, how to get used to it. First thing, until the extension is available in the Chrome Web Store, you can install it using the developer mode. So enable the developer mode once you go to the extension, and then click on the load unpacked extension. Once you click on it, then specify the directory where the dist file is. So this one that you downloaded locally. So once I clicked on that, once I loaded the unpacked extension, it loads like this. You can, if you're familiar with extension development, you can basically check the logs and do reload and so on. But here, let's go to the extension page. The extension should appear here, so you can do the pin so that it appears on the address bar. And once you reload, as soon as you try to capture it, it should do a notification. That notification essentially allows you to customize the behavior. So if you click on it to customize the behavior of the capture, and then click on the extension icon, it can basically allow you to do the same thing that I showed you earlier on the wrapper.html. Like I said, I usually prefer inline and this, so I'm going to make those changes. I'm going to close this external tab. The difference between the external tab and the inline mode is that the external tab allows you to customize for different domains. So right now it's only localhost currently, but as you browse through multiple domains, those will appear here. And then you can customize those, select those, and so on. So now it appears as if it was embedded in the web app itself. Let me stop this one and do the same analog timer, analog clock. So clicking on capture will do the same thing. If I remove this, save it, and then the capture will basically capture the webcam. For testing purpose, what I have done is in my test applications, I've set the frame rate to 5 frames per second, so you can see a slow frame. And to make sure that you are testing your setup is actually using these code injection, you can enable this default code that is injected in the constraints when the media is captured. This allows you to visually see visually notice that whether the extension, whether the software is really working or not at all. Let me stop this here. Now there is also a third way of doing the integration, install option 3 described in the research paper. There is a script.html test page which shows you how to do that, and that might be more suitable if you don't want to expose the whole options panel to your application, in which case you can just select specific functions, specific customization, and use that in your app. For this getting started, I'm going to go back to the embedded wrapper.html and walk you through some of the tabs here. So these tabs, like I mentioned, are described in the paper. Each of these tabs, most of these tabs except for the last 3 of them, are basically designed in a way where you can inject a function, and that function basically replaces the behavior at that intercept API point. Now for the purpose here, let's go back to the settings. I mentioned few of them, some of them will come later. Many of those are already intuitive, I believe, and more descriptions are available here. The help page has pretty extensive documentation about the 3 install options that I mentioned. And it also has list of all the predefined functions that come with the software. But as I mentioned that you can include your own function to different intercept API points. If I'm interested in a particular tab, like for example, if I want to customize how the data channel behavior happens, click on it, it will open that particular tab. If I'm interested in a particular example of customization, as an example, show logo and text at the bottom right corner of a screen video, I click on it, it loads that predefined intercept function and then allows me to save it and see that in as behavior there. So as an example, this particular example that I'm going to show is just using a icon from a website and puts that in the screen share. So if I save this and try to do screen share by clicking on this and then doing it, will basically allow me to do those stuff. I'm going to capture this and you can see this little icon on the bottom right of the screen share. If I connect, the other peer connections will also receive the same icon. This is also part of the intercept API for the screen share. To delete it, just select everything and click on save. So that completes the first part of the getting started. In the subsequent parts, I'm going to describe some external applications and go over some of these, most of these examples that are there as part of this. The help as well as every function that comes here has its own description, typically in the second line of the code about what it does, but the code is just plain pure JavaScript that you can understand. More description is in the paper as well as in the help that I described here. You can click on the print to get the complete list of help functions, including the source code. So as an example, if I click here, it will generate this extensive documentation, including all the source code of built-in predefined functions that are included in the software, as well as their description. The help file is also available in GitHub, so without the function definitions, so that you can just use it from there. Hello again. So in the second part of the getting started video, I'm going to show how it works with external applications, third-party applications using the extension. So assuming that you went through the first part, install the applications, let's go over some examples. So I already showed how the built-in example that I gave you, the test page, that works. But let's go over some third-party applications. So here I'm going to again click on this button and see this, that there's only one of them, one domain is currently installed. If I go over one of the demos here, this is the third-party website, and try to open the camera, the notification appears. It allows me to intercept it. I click on the intercept function and select something else. So I'm just going to use the same example of analog clock first. That's the simplest example to make sure that things work. Great, it works. So this is the third-party website. The capture API modified the get user media API, intercepted it with this function, and then replaced it with whatever was shown here. Obviously, you can use one of the other ones, such as, say, I can remove background on my webcam video. Now, some of these require me to reload because the way how applications, how third-party libraries are loaded here and so on, but here this is showing that my background is removed. I can show some of the other examples, but I'm not going to waste time there. Let's go over to the other websites. The third part of the video series will include going over many of these examples, but for now I'm just going to remove this and clean it up. Another website is a popular media server, SFU Janus. And what I'm going to do here is to do the same thing. Let's say go to video demo, join the room, same notification appears, and it allows me to modify or customize these APIs. If I click on the extension, let's change it to clock again, see if it works. Great. And if I join from another place, the person is going to see this as the webcam video published from here. Remove this again. Now here, if you go back to the tab version, you can see that 3 of these got installed. And if you refresh this, most likely you will see what functions were installed there, and you can modify those right there as well. Let's go back to the Janus page, reload this so that it cleans up. This is another third-party website. I'm going to say reject all here, and media. Let's try this one. I don't remember if I've tried this before or not, but let's see if it works. Allow, same thing here, allow, save, change it to, oh, clock, great, it works. Stop publishing. Okay, so this is another website. So essentially it works on many of the websites. Let's try, this is a video conferencing app that somebody has implemented a long time ago, and I'm going to just have, say, room 1, 2, 3, and create a room. See what happens here. Join. Great, same thing. Now that prompt that you saw will not happen next time you visit the same website. It's only the first time when it wants to know whether you want to customize the behavior of WebRTC APIs on that website or not. Now this one, used the other webcam that I have. I'm going to change that. Give me a minute. So it looks like they allow you to change right here, and this is just the third-party web app, I believe. And what I'm going to do here is do the same thing and save, and you see the analog clock. So this shows that how the RTC Helper software can inject a function that you define here in the extension into third-party website in different places. I haven't shown all the other places, but that will be part of the third video in the series. Let's close this. This is one of the interesting ones, which is the Google Meet. So I am going to log in here, and then we're going to start a video call. So give me a second. Done, and it allows me to start a new meeting. I'm going to start an instant meeting, and allow microphone and camera, allow them, see how it works. So let's copy this, change the camera to FaceTime, and try to customize it. So an example, now it should be, so once I enable the webcam on Google Meet, it uses this, and that's the third-party website here. Now I'm going to show also for Zoom for web app. Give me a second. Here I have a Zoom desktop which started the meeting as me, and then I use the meeting info to launch it in the browser here. So instead of joining from the workspace app, join from the browser, assuming that is enabled, for the extension to take effect, because extension won't work on the installed app. So I clicked on that. I clicked on cam to mute the microphone here to avoid feedback. Let's say S and join. This will send the join, and I'm going to admit it from the desktop app. Don't show notifications, and let's try to customize this now. See if this works. So I save this, and then I'm going to enable my video. Oh, great. So the webcam has changed to this, and the desktop app also sees the other person's webcam as this one. Now, just to show some other examples here, let's try, say, foreground blur, and enable the webcam, select the camera, it's already selected. Oh, here it is. So this is the logic here, which instead of blurring the background, it's blurring the foreground. The desktop app receives my video from the web like that, and I can change it to lower blur in real time so that it doesn't blur as bad, and so on. So one interesting app I would like to show here in this is also how to capture from a third-party website. So this one is the old one. I am already running the stream server. If you select something like, say, receive remote stream, use it as a webcam. This describes the details of how you can get it. Essentially, you need a streams.html file locally on the stream server running somewhere. And let's save this, stop this. And the way it works is assuming that the demo goes through, is it will show you a QR code that you can use from your mobile, and your mobile becomes the camera which will be fed into this as a local camera. Now for the demo purpose, I'm just going to click on the link. So this is basically publishing my video from here to the Stream server, and the Stream server delivers that video here. So this video is not coming from the webcam locally, but it's basically getting published from this side. And if you change something in this one, it will change here as well. And at that instead of this tab, it could as well be your separate device or something else, mobile device or some other camera from somewhere else, which is publishing to the Stream server, which gets received here, and then it gets replaced as the local webcam. I would like to show a few more examples on Google Meet. This example is just detecting the faces on the webcam video, so the logic here is described in detail as well as available here. But, it just detects the face and draws the circle. Let's try with a different one, the standard blur and hide background. So here it's hiding the background, and background is also grayscaled. I can reduce the grayscalability of the background. Instead of 80%, make it more colored, or make it 100% so it's completely grayscale. Instead of background blur of 8 pixels, I can make it more blurry, 16 pixels, and this is just a JavaScript code that you can do. Let's try another one. Say this might be interesting. Yeah. So it's basically sharing the screen as the webcam and putting my video with auto framing. Yeah, so if I move my laptop a little bit, we try to put my face in the center automatically. This is the third video of the series of getting started with this project. In this video, I plan to go over some of the examples, functions for customization. They are described here in the motivational use cases as well as later in Appendix 1, Appendix A. I'm going to use just the wrapper.html, not the extension option, so make sure the extension is disabled before we go there. Let's start with simple ones like the timer we already did in the earlier ones. So if you save this, start the timer, that will work. There is a digital timer too. Stop. Let's try something more fancier here. I'm going to try to combine the two webcam feeds. I have multiple virtual camera in my machine, and what I'm going to do is try to do something like use the first two cameras and see if that works. So this is basically one feed from one camera, virtual camera, the real camera, and they are combined and sent as a single video stream in the call. So if I connect the peer connection, the second one will receive that, and the third one will just copy that. Let's stop. After every test, we should stop the capture just to clear up the states. Animated GIF as a file. Let's try this one here. So this is basically loading an external libgif.js JavaScript library to parse the GIF, load it from another place, and then it uses the frames of those animated GIF as frames for the webcam and repeats in a loop. This is interesting. Let's try that and stop the camera. So this one uses user controls variable. So I've talked about user controls variable in the other places as well. And in this case, it uses a variable named Giphy. So I basically define a variable named Giphy. So let me show you how to define it. Essentially, you use the named variable. In this case, it's used as an event. So I'm going to define it as an event and add it. So whenever this event is triggered from the user controls panel, it's going to inject a GIF file as a Giphy there. Let's just start the capture and trigger. Oh, here it is. So this GIF image was basically overlaid on top of the webcam. If it is connected, it gets streamed in the call. I also have a variable customization. So if I pass a variable gem, then it uses a different GIF image carry. And as you can see, this can be used for other use cases where you can control this based on the user event and user event from the controls panel. Let's try another one here. Blur and hide the background. Standard virtual background, we use selfie segmentation from MediaPipe original release. And I've shown this in the case of other webcam as well, other use cases as well, but this is pretty straightforward. You can reduce the blur to less, to make it less blurry for the background, more blurry for the background. You can reduce the grayscale level so the background is not turned into grayscale. Another interesting stuff is to blur the foreground for privacy. So here the foreground is blurred instead of background. Highlight detect test faces. One interesting thing here is say screen share with background room, and this one is sharing my background removed image from the webcam overlaid on top of the screen share. I've already shown this, but let me show this again here to be able to remove receive remote stream. So when I capture here, it's going to show me a QR code which I can scan with my mobile and use my mobile camera as the video feed for my webcam on my desktop. But for now, I'm just going to open this link by clicking here to emulate publish from the local camera itself. And that appears here. Let's go to the screen share options. So one of the things that we typically can do is pixelate screen share for privacy of text. Now for screen share testing, you need to enable the screen option here and click on capture. And if I share my screen which might have private information, then the text will be blurred or pixelated, so you cannot really read everything. And you can change the pixelation level. Instead of 4, for example, I can say 8, and it will make it more pixelated. Make it 2, less pixelated, which is visible and readable, and 4 is the default. One of the things that typically people can do is, if your app doesn't support multiple screen share from the same client, then you can have this option which will allow you to select 2 screens and be able to share that. So I'm going to try that here. So this is saved. And let's say if I click on capture, it will prompt me 2 times. So I'm going to select first one as this, and the second one say as HTML page. So now there are two videos which are shared, two apps which are shared, but both are combined in the single video screen here. And if I change the layout of those apps, right, then it will automatically adjust based on the logic in this. It will automatically adjust the video feed which goes out. So as an example, if I make this one very horizontal, and so this one also very horizontal, then it will try to fit them side by side. So right now these two are the separate apps which are on my machine, and I selected these two apps to share, and this is the video feed which is combining these two apps and is streamed in the call. Let me go to another option here, which is if you're sharing a bigger part of a screen and you don't want everything to be shared, then you can select a subset of the rectangle screen here. So click on capture again. So now it allows me to, once I select the screen, it should allow me to select a subset of it. So I can say select only the top part of it, this much, instead of the whole thing. And when I click outside, it's only going to share that part instead of the whole app. This is typically useful for your privacy, like if you have screen, if you want to share a portion of your monitor or screen, which might include multiple apps. As you drag the apps in and out, then that allows you to do this use case. Let's try overlay text on top of the screen. So this one is just showing some kind of text, copyright text on top of the screen capture. So if I click on capture, let me first increase the size of my shared screen so that it's not too small. And so this app is shared in the video, and you can see this little text on top of it, which is overlaid. And you can obviously change the size of it, make it double, change the color if you like to something else. It's also red, so this text color also becomes red. So next, in the record category, there are many functions that allow you to record all the audio video elements on the web page, especially on the third-party web page, which becomes pretty useful. So let's start with a simple one, which is record all the playing videos side by side. So when I start capture, starting my regular webcam, the record controls are right here on the tab itself, on the category panel itself. So right now there's only one video, so it just gets recorded. I connect all the three videos are squished together based on the logic described here into a single panel. Stop the recording. You can check the webm recording, how it happened. And you can save the webm file, or you can try to convert it to MP4. MP4 is a little tricky and work in progress, but one of the examples here allows you to do that. So example here is essentially recording all the videos in their original layout. So it finds the layout of the videos on the web page and tries to record it in the same layout. So when you click on the record, you can see it here. Like this is how it is. You connect it. They are laid out here. If I make the video is smaller by dragging it like this. The layout on the web page changed. The layout on the recording will also change. Stop. And then you can play it if you like. Save and download. One of the interesting app that I have written here, function I have written here, is to record one video at a time. Like there might be 10 or 20 people in the call. So what this does is it pops out a window and then allows you to select which video you want to record at any time. So for example, I capture, I do connect. It might be a good idea here to use some kind of label, but in the absence of label, let's just do this. I'm going to start the recording. There's 3 videos here. Second video is empty. Once I connect, the second video should hopefully be visible then. Second video and third video. So here you can see a little label here which says what video it is, because this script is also writing the label on top of it. Stop the recording, and that is what is recorded. Close and make it bigger again. Okay. The next tab is about video elements. So you can change the behavior of the video element itself. There are some examples here. So as an example, if I change it to use say circle shape, pretty straightforward. So all the videos will appear as circle and controls removed. Then let's change it back, and other example could be, say, transparent. Make the video transparent, if not mouse over. So in this case, all the video elements are transparent. When I mouse over them, they become full opacity. An interesting one here is to, say, expand the video to full size when you click on it. So here this function basically installs a click handler, changes the CSS. So when the videos are playing, for example, and I want to see this video, I click on it, it becomes full screen, full size of the app. And if this is hidden, then that's what it will look like. Click on it again, it goes back to the normal shape. So that logic, the customization logic, is part of this 25 lines of code. Another interesting one that I can show here is to click to show picture-in-picture pop-out with all videos. So this uses the browser's JavaScript's built-in picture-in-picture feature, and it creates a new canvas and pops it out. So for example, if I have these videos playing, click on any of the videos, it will pop it out, all the playing videos. When I have more than one video, it will display them in the original layout. If I have the layout differently, that's how it will be. And this is the standard browser's JavaScript's picture-in-picture feature. Okay, now let's go to next tab, which is streams. I'm going to remove the installed function here. The stream functions allows you to customize any stream, description in the research paper as well as in the help. But let me try one with disable any captured stream on media or canvas element. Pretty straightforward. How does it work? It just disables the capture stream on any call. So for example, I do capture a stream here, The function is defined, but when I try to do that, it will basically fail, saying that it's not implemented. The error message not implemented is dispatched here. If I remove this, hopefully it will work. Let me refresh. Stop. Refresh it actually completely. Yeah, this gave the media stream now. Okay, so there are a bunch of other ones which also work well. Let me go to the devices. Many of these are demonstratable only via the console here because the UI doesn't have enough features for those. So as an example, if I uh, add a dummy device in each category. So once I install this, if if the app does something like enumerate devices, then it's going to add a dummy device, these devices, in the return responses. So these three last were added here. Other ones similarly manipulate the enumerate devices API call. Media, I described it earlier, but essentially allows you to modify the constraints in get user media or in apply constraints and so on. So this one we already did. There are a bunch of others such as pick a specific webcam to capture, and let me show that one. So if I do this one is basically picking a webcam which has a label called cam twist. So if I enable my camera, it should basically use the virtual camera that I have rather than the real one. Similarly, other things. This is pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to go into much details. Session is about updating the session description in various API calls. As an example, you can change the codecs, you can change the bit rates, bandwidth, and so on. You can disable video altogether. So let me show you this one. If I capture, it is going to capture from the user media, but when I connect, it will disable video when in the peer connection itself. Another example here to show is just to print all the session description. So let's say it's getting this intercept function and capture and connect. So it's printing all the peer connection, all the API calls which are related to the session description. Connect is about the constructor of the peer connection. So you can specify certain properties. You can change certain relay server or stun server addresses and so on. Network is the ICE candidate send and received. So as an example, you can filter out all the host candidates with private IP addresses and so on. And the functions are pretty straightforward, pretty simple in these cases. So I'm not going to go over that. Stats is more complex compared to others, but the idea here is again similar. You can intercept the various APIs as well as you can intercept the stats function. So if you install this function, it will basically make sure that periodically all the peer connection stats are collected and the installed function is called. So there are functions such as to collect the statistics and send it to some server as a dump, or you can do things like display it locally. So this is one of the things that I can show here. This one shows the total bandwidth which is sent and received by manipulating the various parameters attributes of the get stats result. So let's say start. I'm going to close this one and I'm going to start the peer connection. So between these two, this is the outbound, this is the inbound. It shows what the bandwidth were sent and received in the two peer connections. So this peer connection is for one side outbound, and this is for the other side. And it uses this attribute metric for the information. Let's do another one which is a little bit more complicated, which displays bitrate, delay, jitter, and bunch of other parameters. So let's close this one first and connect. And here you can see all those parameters displayed on the bottom as a graph. The plot function which is available in the software allows you to plot it locally here to the end user directly, but the better option might be to just send it to a server. This is another interesting example which I'm going to say shows the interaction between this function and the controls tab. So what it does is it captures what the frame rate is and sets a variable called frame rate. So let's run this again and then go to the controls tab. Frame rate, number, add, save, stats. Let's stop again. Capture, connect. So the frequency of stats collection by default is several seconds, and it will take some time. So right now the frame rate is 14, and it will probably fluctuate between 14 and 15 unless I change it to make it worse in the app. Another example here could be this one. So sender frame rate from controls tab event trigger. So it will basically set this frame rate from the controls tab by using change FPS function. So I need to define this something called as change FPS. Once change FPS is called, it's going to use that value as a frame rate here. So let's say save, and I'm going to define a variable called change FPS, and let's say define the string. Let's see what happens, and save. Now I'm going to run this here, capture, connect. So right now the frame rate is 15, and I'm going to change this to say 1. Save. So you can see the receive side frame rate has changed because the frame rate which is set for the encoder from this side to this is changed. Let me make it 5. Now this is a little bit faster, and change it back to whatever 30 or 15, and that will be more real time. There are a bunch of other functions that you can do, like log connection methods and events is pretty straightforward, but useful for debugging on third-party websites or even your own website. It will log all the messages, all the stuff, and you can log parameters if you like. Right now I'm not logging the args, but you can log the parameters if you like, or send it to something else. Okay, data is for data channel. I do have a data channel implementation here. So I'm going to show a couple of examples here. So one is to disable data channel altogether. So here, save. What it will do is it will just not do any data channel anymore. It will just say that the data channel is not supported or something similar to that. So if I say PC1, which is a variable defined in my test application, and I say create data channel, let's see what happens. So it not implemented error here. Disables the data channel completely. You can do other ways to try to figure out if data channel is there or not, and it will do that. This is an interesting one, which is basically adding a prefix to the let me refresh the page because it's still the stats function is still installed, and I'm going to change the picture to use analog clock just so that it's not distracting. So coming back to the data channel here, I don't need to actually do captcha. I can just connect the data channel here and I can send messages. So I can say hello, and that message should go. Oh, first I need to connect. So data and hello. So it added a prefix this in the actual message which was sent. And it added a prefix this in the actual message which was received. There are also ways to do integrity protection and so on, which typically not that important, but for your own application or for third-party application, but for your own application you might want to do something like that. So for example, I connect the data channel and say hello. It actually sent this, and this is the signature, SHA1 HMAC signature, which gets sent, and the receiver can verify it whether it was correct or not based on the some shared secret. So in the real application you will have the shared secret across two different clients, and we'll be able to do integrity protection. You can also do encryption and so on. I don't have an example of encryption in this case, but I have probably example of encryption in the other case of WebSocket. So the next is the WebSocket intercept. WebSocket intercept has a bunch of example functions. I don't use WebSocket in this app, so I can only show it by by doing it here. But essentially, it's like straightforward. This one will just delay the API call for WebSocket connection by some random amount. So for example, if you say WebSocket and do something like localhost and something, oh, I need to do one error or something like that, otherwise it won't know when the WebSocket was created. Open error. Okay, let's try this. So see, it connected after some time, and similarly you can do the testing with the encryption and decryption of messages. I have a Echo WebSocket server that I use for testing. This is forcing a WebSocket connection after some time. Okay, next one is for AJAX request, both fetch and XML HTTPRs. XML HTTPR request object. There are a bunch of examples that have been tested locally. I don't use these in this test app, so you won't be able to demonstrate here, but if you do something like this, it will be able to um, emulate that. So for example, I install this function which will emulate success even if there is an error. So when I say something like fetch and give a false address, something dot invalid and hello, it should still respond to the API in the web app as success, whatever I have configured here, even though the underlying request failed. Controls I have already talked about. There are other ways to do controls, but one of the ways is to use trigger, but common way is to just define a variable and change the value and have the other functions listen on those. So that completes my third video in the series that I wanted to go over all the common customization functions. Thank you very much.